Got my old 38 Special out. Actually carried this today. I felt like carrying it. So I'm going to unload it. Happen to have Hornady Critical Defense rounds right there in the gun. My backup happens to be some Spear Gold Dots. I don't, not really particular about what I carry as far as having the same backup, as long as it's a decent round. And that's one benefit, I suppose, to having a 38 Special, any revolver. It doesn't really matter what you put in the thing, they function well. So if you want to carry different backup than your primary load, whatever, not a big deal here. But I've got asked so many times, time and time again, to discuss whether the 38 Special is good enough for self-defense, and particularly, is it good enough out of a Snub-Nose Revolver. Now, before I go through some of this information, I want to make it pretty clear that, I'm not an expert on a lot of things necessarily, but when it comes to the 38 Special cartridge, without any arrogance at all, I am going to tell you I'm an expert at that cartridge. People have even told me I should be the 38 Special guy. And I got that expertise because I've studied so much ballistics on it, and I've reloaded tens of thousands of them. I shoot them all the time. I know the ins and outs of the cartridge really, really well. So any information that there is about the cartridge is going to be in my head, aside from exact dimensions of rims and a lot of stuff like that. But now the first thing that we get into when we talk about a 38 Special Snub-Nose Revolver, and we start talking to people about it, the general idea is that it's not good enough, and most of that information from most people comes from incorrect information, because they're quoting, really in a sense, they're quoting the wrong cartridge. They're quoting basically the standard pressure lead bullet, or even a standard pressure hollow point. And that's where it ends. That's the level of the ballistics they understand about the 38 Special. And because they don't put a lot of time into thinking about actually carrying one, they don't really know that there's plus P ammunition for it. They may know, but they don't really realize the ins and outs of plus P. When we talk about a 38 Special and a standard pressure versus a plus P, it truly is a different cartridge. And I say that because when we look at something like a 9mm, I was looking at Spear Gold Dot earlier today for an example. 9mm, not a lot of case capacity. When you go from the standard pressure to the plus P of the Gold Dot, and it's good ammo, what you got out of a 4-inch barrel is when you go from standard pressure to plus P, you increase it just 12% of its energy. 6% velocity increase, 12% energy increase. People don't realize that cartridges like the 45 Auto, the 38 Special, 45 Long Colt, and the like, because there's such a large case capacity and they're operating at such a low pressure, that when you go up to a plus P, you significantly increase that power much more than you do on small case capacity cartridges like 9mm. Example would be, if I compared one of the old standard loads, the original law enforcement load, the 158 grain lead round nose, it's going to do about 650 feet per second out of this. And it's not even going to hit 150 foot-pounds of energy. And I compare it to the critical defense out of this, which I got 1,000 for the 110 grain plus P. That's a difference of energy of about 100 foot-pounds difference in energy, which equates to 65% gain in energy with a plus P over an old style standard pressure. That's a huge jump in energy. Huge. So what it comes down to, the heart of the matter is the 38 Special that we need to be talking about when it comes to Snub-Nose Revolvers and self-defense is the plus P. And I can take it one step further and say, even in my opinion, I think the little bit lighter rounds, 135 and less, bullet weight is probably a little bit more ideal, because you're going to push them faster, you're going to give a little bit more energy per how much weight's on there, better chance of opening up a hollow point. But a lot of this has to do with different hollow point designs. So let's define these cartridges a little bit. Now when we look at the 38 Special, an American standard, we're talking, we have plus P and we have standard pressure. Those are defined by SAMI as two different cartridges. The standard pressure maxes out at 17,000 psi, the plus P at 20,000 psi. Now we have some term floating around plus P plus. SAMI doesn't define that. Sporting Arms and Ammunition Manufacturing Institute, they don't define that as anything. However, if you were going to put a number on it, it would be 22,000. So 17,000, 20,000, 22,000 for standard pressure, plus P and plus P plus. Now, European standard, they use the CIP, which stands for, and I wrote it down here, what is that? The Permanent International Commission for the Proof of Small Arms. When they define what a 38 Special is, they don't have standard pressure plus P or plus P plus. They simply define it under the guidelines of 22,000 max, same as a plus P plus. So they don't have standard pressure or plus P. So for them, a plus P plus is, that's the max on just a 38 Special in general. So what I want to do is I want to give you a little bit of ballistic information on what to expect out of a Snub-Nose Revolver. And I'm going to tell you right now, it seems to me that most of the plus P loadings of this are at the level they need to be, just at it. Generally what you see out of a gun like this with plus P loads is you see a 158 grain bullet doing 800 feet per second. You see a 125 grain bullet doing 900 feet per second. You see a 110 grain bullet doing 960. All of those equate out to 225 foot-pounds of energy. Now if we were going to compare that to like an LC9 style gun of a 9mm, a very small subcompact 9mm, you'd be talking 275 foot-pounds of energy versus 225 of something like this. However, when we look at what it actually does, and I've done a lot of different tests on a lot of different cartridges through denim barriers into water jugs, and what I see oftentimes is even out of a Snub-Nose Revolver, we're getting what I would consider adequate for self-defense. But if I take that same cartridge and put it to a standard pressure, usually we do not see ideal performance, because we're pushing a bullet that's a little bit too heavy, a little bit too slow. So when we talk standard pressure out of this, we're talking, somewhere maybe around 175 foot-pounds of energy. That won't expand most bullets. It won't, not on the velocity that we're getting out of that. But when we go up to 225 foot-pounds energy, which your average plus P is, we do see expansion. We do see performance similar to 9mm, which the 9mm is kind of a go-to standard. If a 9mm works, and you can pretty much judge other cartridges by it and say that cartridge is going to work as well. If you look at a lot of ballistics, gel information, FBI protocols and whatnot, you do see that some of the 38 plus Ps do just barely meet that minimum. So, in my opinion, is it good enough? Is it good enough for self-defense? Personally, with a standard pressure, I believe no. With a plus P, I believe yes. And I actually do believe that the lighter bullets are a little bit better. I know some people really like the 158 grains and even 200 grain super police bullets, but in my experience, when we're talking about expanding hollow points, 110 and 125 is where it's at for me, where I see hollow point expansion and decent penetration. So I think that, in my opinion, those are better. And the pure gold dot 135s are good because even though they're a little bit slower, a little bit heavier, they are very large hollow cavity and they do expand really well. And another thing we got to look at is, the actual effectiveness when they did the goats at Strasbourg test. Shot a lot of different goats in the side of the body, and what they did is they tried to see how long it would take to incapacitate a goat. And a lot of these cartridges, like 45 auto, 9mm or whatnot, they're somewhere around 10 seconds or something like that. And when they did that test, they performed that test, and it's very, inhumane test. I'll just point that out, but it was something that was done. And when they shot at the goats on the side shot with the 158 grain lead round nose bullet, the old law enforcement standard that does about 650 out of this feet per second, 46 seconds incapacitation time before it, incapacitated and was basically dead. And when they did that same test with a plus P version of a hollow point of that, like the kind of the FBI load sort of thing, which was kind of a low end, less than the Buffalo bore, but close to 800 feet per second on a 158 grain lead hollow point. What they got is like 15 seconds. Put it really kind of in the range of any other cartridge. So we are looking at, and that was out of a 2-inch barrel, we are looking at usable performance, usable stopping power, if you want to call it that, with a plus P round for most of the plus P cartridges, and we're looking at less than ideal with standard pressure. So I do carry a 38 Special a lot. I feel completely comfortable with it. It's just at that minimum of what you need for penetration and expansion, energy, and all of that, in a very reliable package. Everything else, you know, with the whole, you know, capacity thing, you know, that, I'm not going to get into that today. Let's just say, though, if you had to fire 1 shot, 2 shots, or 3 shots, or something like that, I do wholeheartedly believe that a 38 Special Plus P will hold its own with anything else comparable, of comparable diameter, such as, you know, the 9mm. So that's just my opinion really quick here. I thought I'd share that. I've been asked to give my opinion on that for a while, because a lot of people really are interested in the Snub-Nose. A lot of people that might not be interested in larger revolvers are still interested in the Snub-Nose because they're a concealed carry option. They're very interested in them. So I thought I'd run down that information here. So that's just my take on the whole matter. Plus P, yes. Standard pressure, no. So tell me what you think in the comments. As always, comment, share, and like. And thanks for watching.